Sierra here at Halcyon Yarn, and today I'm going to show you how to create a knitted in folded hem, like the one I used for this little backpack here that encloses a drawstring. Now while there are many different ways to apply this technique, today I'm going to focus on showing you how to use it to enclose a drawstring for a bag. So I've got a little sample started. Now of course, on the full piece, this would go all the way around. We have a lot more stitches, but this will serve to show you the basic technique. So I've knit about an inch, a little bit more, and I've created two little eyelets for the drawstring to poke out so that you can then, here, for illustration, those two little eyelets. All right, so we won't worry about the drawstring. Actually, yes, we will. Here's the drawstring, previously crocheted. It is just a crocheted chain. So you're going to want to place that kind of in the middle on the back of your work. And the idea is that you'll be folding this up and finding the corresponding spot. You have this first stitch, you're going to follow that line down. You can see all those little V's. This is the edge one, so it's a little wonky, but we'll see some easier ones after we get through this first one. So following that line down to the end, and I see that that little corner right there is where I want to knit these stitches together. Now, there are a couple of things that you have to do when getting this first one situated, because you're going to be juggling with your chain. So you want that to be cozy in there so you don't have to worry about it. And again, we're looking at that outer row for that first stitch, finding its original spot in the cast on row. So we've got that original spot, and we'll just stick the needle right in there. So we've got it folded up. Now, what we want to do is simply knit that front stitch together with its very tight mate in the back. We're knitting them together as one, and that is all you need to do. Now that that first stitch is complete and those are knit together, we're going to then find the next one, making sure, like I almost made that mistake there, but we want the drawstring to remain flat against the back. You're just trying to lock it into place. So finding the next stitch to correspond with this one starts to get a little bit easier. What I want to do is make sure when I'm picking up that next stitch in the back, and it does not have to be in an exact spot, as long as it's right around when you're folding that edge over, as long as they're pretty darn close, just like when you're sewing a beginner seam. It's okay if it's not in that exact stitch, that's all right. But what you want to make sure of is that you're not just picking up one loop of yarn. You want to get two. This makes it much, much more sturdy. Second stitch done. Moving on. So I'm just folding back to check my work. I've got that first one, the second one, you can see the little column of V's. There's the third one. And again, just checking to make sure I'm in the ballpark. Knitting these all together. So you can see what's happening here. That edge is getting folded over. This guy is getting closed in, but it can still kind of move around. Do a couple more. Now, the thing to remember when you start to get to those eyelets is you see how the drawstring's going. If this wasn't a mini sample, for example's sake, I would have a much longer drawstring and the piece would be as big around as this. But what I did for this one was I started at my beginning of round and I went through, actually, that's a lie. The beginning of round was here. Really kind of look at my piece this way as I go. So I started right here, that's my cast on edge, and then I knit a piece that looks just like this. And when I got to this point, I found this end of my chain. You feed it through that first eyelet. The other end of the chain, imagine it's much longer, this is a bigger piece, you would bring around and feed it through the second eyelet. Now it's starting to look familiar. So as you continue to go along, this is kind of a bad example because of my short chain, but as you continue to go along, you'll want to make sure that you don't twist those two pieces. So once you get to that edge, it gets quite a bit easier. But I'm going to show you how I finish this up. So you see I've got both ends in, and we've got that drawstring coming around the imaginary backside of this bag. So keeping it tucked in there, just going to continue picking up those stitches. And I'm eyeballing it. The fun part is when you get to the end and you can see how much you eyeballed it. So what's almost inevitable is by the time you get to that other end, things won't match up perfectly. But again, as long as it's not like an inch of the back is left and you've reached the last stitch, or you've got none of the back left and you've got 2 or 3 more stitches, as long as they're somewhat close to each other, it's really okay. This will be on the inside of your piece. And really nobody can expect it to be perfect. Come on. And that was a messy pickup on my part. There we go. So get that last guy in there. And now you can see you've got a very tidy folded hem with your little drawstring to come out of it. And that's the back side. And in the end, you wind up with a pretty functional drawstring.